Well, Uncle Doug,
Yo.
sometimes when, as you know, I enjoy reading the Bible quite a bit.
Yeah?
It is, the good book and the only book.
Such a good book.
But
I
then
don't know if you
think,
guys know.
is there a much, much longer book with more dizzying tales?
I'll bet there is.
Yeah? Dan,
Yeah,
do you know anything about that?
Okay, fellas. I guess it was inevitable. A stopped clock is right twice a day, and every now and then a religion is bound to get one right too. So we're going to get to a story that is actually something that I like.
Praising religion isn't really the corner we work here.
Don't worry too much,
Okay.
because while they were totally on the right track on this one, they managed to fuck it up in the end.
They didn't stick the landing.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
It'll all turn out bad in the end.
All right.
Which is how we roll.
Religion. It'll all turn out bad in the end.
Indeed,
I'll allow it.
It should be their thing. Well, I should say somebody managed to fuck it up, because this is in part, at least, a story of one religion influencing another, and as is so often the case with us super advanced monkeys, when two conflicting sets of beliefs meet, the wrongest one often prevails.
I was going to say it always ends in Moida.
Right? Yeah. But before we get to that, we will get to this book that we're talking about. Let me take you back in time to sometime around the 4th century CE in India.
Good times.
Which is about the time that we get the present form of the longest epic poem known to humanity, the Mahabharata. Why epic poetry? Apparently cataloging the probably fictitious rises and falls of Hinduism between 400 BCE and 200 CE is too boring to just stick to prose. Why not make that shit a challenge?
Yeah.
So if you think the Bible is an impenetrable mess of a read, just be super glad that most of it isn't written in verse.
That's right. It doesn't rhyme.
Yeah. The Mahabharata, as you mentioned, Uncle Mark, is huge.
Right.
And
the Bhagavad Gita is just a sliver of it, right?
Yeah. So this Bhagavad Gita that I'm holding right now, which is, it's got some commentary in it, but it's a heavy tome.
It's a handsome hardback.
Of a thing.
Yeah.
That's book 6 of 18.
Oh my God.
The Mahabharata is almost 100,000 couplets.
Oh my God.
To be exact, which is about 7 times longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey put together.
Ugh.
So
my God.
suck on that, Homer. So yeah, there you go.
It's dense. It's dense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I swindled this Bhagavad Gita off of a nice Hindu lady in London, so that's kind of fun.
They used to just hand them out at the airport.
Well, they were gonna.
Yeah.
She tried to pull a bait and switch on me. She said, "Do you want this for free?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Make a donation." And I was like,
That's not free.
"That's not what we're doing." And B, how much do you want? And she was like, £15. And I gave her 2. So I figure we're at a.
Yeah.
So she got. I think they came out bad on the deal. But
Well, early Hinduism probably was a barter economy.
yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Well, I've been to India. You want to barter. You got to haggle.
Because what a white person needs in India is a good deal.
Right. Well, I'm not going to get ripped off.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Anyhow, this astounding text is foundational to the Hindu religion. It's considered a guide for how good Hindus are to live and to conduct themselves, and because all humans are basically the same and all religions are all just tools for small groups of humans to manipulate and control much larger groups of humans, the Mahabharata can be used to teach pretty much any message a sadhu or guru feels like spewing.
So it's unlike the other great texts of the world. that way.
Yeah, completely unlike. Yeah,
Right.
It's unique in that respect.
Right.
No, just like the Bible or the Quran, the Mahabharata has stories that are convenient to talk about and stories that are far more convenient to skip. So the prejudiced du jour can stand without annoyance of too much questioning getting in the way. And it's easy enough when telling the hand-picked stories to manipulate the details into an interpretation that serves your desired narrative. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Today's reading is the story of the warrior who brought down an invincible tyrant That warrior is Shikandi.
Shikandi.
That's right.
I'm team,
Shikandi forever.
I'm Team Shikandi.
yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And you'll stick with that later on as we get through this. But we got to start the story with a young woman named Amba. Amba was the daughter of the king of Kashi. Kashi was a kingdom in India, the capital of which was Varanasi, which is actually, incidentally, very close to Sarnath, where the Buddha started preaching. But now I'm crossing the streams. So, anywho.
Yeah, this is some Marvel DC shit, so let's just
we'll just
stick with the Marvel here.
Yeah, exactly. Anywho, Amba and her sisters Ambika and Ambalika. Apparently, Mormons aren't the only ones who annoyingly name their kids this
I was
way.
about to say, was Joseph Smith a Hindu?
Right, exactly. Were kidnapped by the powerful Bhishma as punishment to Kashi for being flavorless and having the worst texture of all the breakfast cereals.
That was good. I didn't make that joke, thank you. 'Cause I thought it was in poor taste.
Yes, indeed. And it does taste bad.
Yes, it is cardboard in a box.
Anyway, Bhishma decided to marry the girls off to a buddy of his, but Amba protested, saying that she was already totes in love with some other dude. Bhishma, not wanting to be the dickish kind of kidnapper, was like, oh, okay, cool, off you go then, and sent her to marry her true love, Salwa.
A simpler time where you could hope for a better class of kidnapper. Wasn't it?
Right? Don't we all wish for that? Unfortunately, nobody consulted with Salwa, who was not on board. He had just lost a big battle with Bhishma and was still being a little titty baby about it, and he rejected her proposal.
Ooh.
Oopsie-doo. So Amba went back to Bhishma, and because the most important thing a woman can be in the whole universe is married, she demanded that Bhishma marry her, which feels like a pretty bold move from a kidnapped victim. But even that powerful...
Or what we traditionally call a woman.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, in the religious sphere.
Right. But even her powerful Stockholm syndrome failed her because
Stockholm wasn't invented yet.
Right, correct.
Yes.
Ding. No, because what she didn't know was that Bhishma had taken a vow of celibacy. So, no dice.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, so Amba she vowed to kill Bhishma.
Whoa.
Which is no small feat, considering that he was A, possibly the greatest warrior of the time, and B, also had some magic protection making him incapable of dying until he chose to. So that's a pretty nifty trick.
Yeah.
It's a nice superpower.
Yeah. At this point, you'd think that Amba would take the route so many women in holy texts would take, and somehow summon her womanly wiles to trick him into doing something boneheaded that would get him killed. For more on this tactic, please refer to the Samson story in episode 21.
The totally sensible Samson story.
Right. They are all totally sensible, Mark.
So she loomed his hair into a big placemat.
She weaved him.
She tied two octopuses together.
And released, set them on fire. Anyway, that's not how Amba...
And then she went about trying to kill him.
Right, yes. Yeah, well, that part was just for fun.
Yeah.
That's not how Amba operated. She wanted to defeat him in battle, like the raging badass that she was.
Oh.
But
So
she couldn't.
She ran at his strengths rather than from them.
Right, exactly. Unfortunately, she was a woman, and women weren't allowed to fight in combat. So then she went to other kings around. Apparently super easy to get an audience with a king back then, I guess.
Yeah.
And asked them to champion her cause and kill Bhishma, but, dude can't be killed, so they all said no.
Oh, smart of him.
Yeah. Dejected, she resorted to penance, whatever that means, and got a garland of blue lotuses from Lord Subramanya. Nailed it. Who was the son of Shiva and Parvati, just so you know.
So he's a dude.
Pretty good parents to have.
Yeah.
And he was also sort of the commander-in-chief of the gods, military leader of the gods.
In addition to being a florist.
Right, yes, indeed. He had hobbies. Pretty neat.
I like that he had a softer side.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
He was a pretty good guy to get a garland from because it was prophesied that that whoever wore that garland would defeat Bhishma. So pretty neat stuff.
Yeah.
So she starts shopping the garland around, like, who's going to champion me now? I've got the garland that says you're going to defeat Bhishma, but they were all still too afraid, and nobody would still attempt it. So she was defeated and trapped in a sexist world. So she did what any good feminist would do, which was...
She put the garland on.
She drowned a baby.
That's right. She hung the garland on some king's gate and killed herself.
Oh. Okay.
But this was not some...
That took a turn.
Yes, indeed. But far from being a defeatist act of petulance, this was the Hindu world. She was running down the clock. Amba was using reincarnation to her advantage.
Oh.
She was reborn, but after growing up as her new self, she realized that the world hadn't changed enough, so she did it again. And again. And again. She kept killing herself until finally she was reborn as Shikandini, the Disney princess daughter of Drupada, the king of Panchala.
Oh, so she was still a female.
Still a female.
Okay.
And still human.
Now, did I make all of those names up? Maybe. How would you know? Yes, still a human and definitely still a woman.
So there's no downgrade in Hinduism for suicide.
Not in this story. No downgrade nor upgrade. No, you just lateral move the whole time.
I like how this is kind of a riff on Groundhog Day.
Right.
Instead of living the same day over and over, she just keeps like trying to project herself through time.
Indeed. Anyway, at some point, Shikandini asked her dad if it was okay for a woman to go into battle yet. And no, it wasn't. So, in her anger and disappointment, she went for a walk and saw a lotus garland hanging on her father's gate. So, feeling festive, wanting to be a little pretty, I guess, she just chucked it on. And seeing it, and knowing what it meant, her father flipped out and banished her so as to avoid having Bhishma storm in and kill Buddy's ass. So, Shikandini wandered out into the woods where she met a magic dude called a yaksha, which is like a fairy or a wood nymph or something.
All right.
And they were chatting and, just shooting the shit, whatever. And he decided, you know what? You want to be a guy so you can beat this Bhishma dude. And I'm soups curious about what it would be like to be a chick. Want to switch junk?
That was a very early, era for this procedure.
Yes, indeed. Bada bing, bada boom. Shikandini becomes Shikandi, the first post-op trans man in history.
Whoa.
And not only that, transplant trans.
Yeah.
Man, right?
Yeah. So
it wasn't modifying their own situation.
No.
It was swap. Wow. This is something. This is very progressive.
very progressive.
Yes.
So, newly packin', Shikandi joins the army that's been fighting Bhishma. Now, this army's at their wits' end because, you can't kill the guy, and he's got the best army in the world.
You just need a very feminine trans man with a blue flower necklace.
Right?
Yes.
That's what they were waiting for. Oh, and also, there's a thing about as long as Bhishma's bow is raised, he's the deadliest guy in the world. He will arrow you to death quite quickly.
Toot sweet.
So he's more dangerous when he's shooting arrows than when he's not.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
I think you've got a handle on it. Well done.
These weird old stories.
I know, they don't make any sense. But Krishna was fighting with them, and he had a plan. He put Shikandi and Arjuna, his best archer, on his chariot and sent them at Bhishma. When Bhishma saw them, he somehow knew that Shikandi used to be Amba. I don't know how, but he knew it. And he got furious that they would send a woman out to fight him. So, like an idiot, he lowered his bow because he would never raise his bow at a woman. Even though this was a trans man, this is the first instance of, I think maybe they also, this attack occurred in a public restroom, and he was just
right,
just beside himself.
I can't believe that our president didn't have this story in mind,
right,
when he instituted his ban on trans people in the military, because clearly
it is a good thing to have some trans folks because
obviously he's read,
like it says in the Bhagavad Gita,
right?
for sure.
Yeah, the Mahabharata, right? Like an idiot, he lowers his bow so as not to shoot the lady, and blam! Arjuna and their whole army pelted him with a barrage of arrows.
Just pincushioned his ass.
So many arrows, in fact, that his body was completely immobilized and stuck into the ground.
Oh.
So basically, he was sort of suspended amid these arrows and just stuck in the ground.
Wounded.
Yeah. Complete, like pretty much there's not a square inch of him that's not arrowed.
More arrow than man.
Yes, indeed. So the battles raged on with Bhishma's army for a few days after that, but eventually Pincushion Bhishma decided that being permanently arrowed to the ground was a lame
So,
eternity.
He survived.
Oh, well, he hadn't chosen to die yet.
Oh, I see. That's right.
So now he decided to die.
Yeah.
And that's basically the end of this of that part of this story. Depending on which version you read, Shikandi died on the last day of the fighting, but maybe didn't. It's hard to tell.
But he now, Shikandi now, he set out to do what he meant to do.
Yeah, and
which
did
was
it.
to kill this motherfucker.
And in the process became the first trans action hero
Of many.
of many.
Of many,
Yeah.
sure. So what percentage of the Bhagavad Gita have we covered now?
0.
Yeah, so this is the first of our 32,000-part series
Which will cover the first half of the Mahabharata.
where Dan doesn't actually read it. He just kind of does an interpretive dance for
Yeah,
us.
exactly. Exactly. The reason that I became interested in this story, and I wanted to get to this quickly, is because of a story that I covered on Thank God I'm Atheist. People can go back. It's a couple of episodes back. Wherein a recent occurrence has happened, which is that a trans woman named Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi, who's a former reality TV star, she was on their version of Big Brother, I think,
Okay.
has started a trans akhara, which is a within Hinduism, there are these akharas are sort of sects of monks of
Kind of like a Catholic
ascetics
order.
or whatever. Yeah, exactly. And technically, the other akharas are not quick to accept this, but she has started this this thing. She's from the Brahmin caste,
Yeah.
and so she feels like she can just do whatever
She's
the
like
fuck
that,
she
and
wants.
which the caste system, which is technically illegal.
Right,
She's
yeah,
the-
exactly.
She's the tippity top,
which
right?
they totally do not do ever anymore, except everybody.
Yeah.
But so she started this trans caste. Now in India, since 2014, they have recognized what they call hijras as officially a third gender.
Right.
I don't know if that's cool or not. It's a really interesting thing. At least there's some legal protection for trans people.
Most of the anti-LGBT sentiments in India came with the British.
Well, and that's the thing, and that was what I was referring to earlier in the segment, which is that when the British people came over, they were the ones who like poisoned, because hijras used to be an honored thing. They actually were considered to have sort of some magic about them,
Right.
And they would bless weddings, and they still do. It's weird. They are shunned and reviled, but you want one to bless your wedding, you want one to bless your this and
And
that,
then get the fuck out.
and then go away, you filthy. And they've and to be honest, they've been sort of relegated to sex work,
Right.
And they were hit incredibly hard by the AIDS epidemic in the
crisis, yeah.
90s. So this Lakshmi Tripathi has been working diligently as an activist, and I love that she has created a trans group of monks, and people are going to them for blessings, and you know, she has some celebrity status, and I think like really interesting shit's happening.
Using it for good.
Right?
Yeah. And using the story of Shikandi, reminding people that like this is part of our heritage, part of our
religious
Hindu
belief.
religious heritage.
Are we coming up on a happy ending? Is this like actually a good story?
This is what I was saying.
Wow.
Like you know, I kind of like this one.
Well, I don't know that it's a happy ending, because I think for the first time ever, we've discussed a downside to colonialism, and I don't feel comfortable with it.
Exactly. How is that working? How is that supposed to work?
It's not worth all the tea in China.
All the tea in Boston.
That was an incredibly confusing story, but with a very positive end, and I, for one, am for it.
Yes.
I second the motion.
All right. The motion passes, and we'll move on.
Moving on.